So Joe Biden refused to saber rattle during the last debate with Donald Trump. That's a good thing in my mind. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Last night we had maybe the last time we will be subjected to having to watch Donald Trump on stage. It was tough. And then afterwards, Sonali and Julio and I were talking on Free Speech TV about this whole thing, and it was just bizarre. So anyhow, it's Anything Goes Friday, although in our second hour today, the second hour of our program, for the entire hour, Congressman Ro Khanna of California will be taking your calls for the hour. He's the vice chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a rising star in the progressive world, and so we'll be doing that. We'll get his thoughts on it. There was a lot of stuff that was discussed last night, and very little of it where Donald Trump didn't take an opportunity to lie or exaggerate or whine. I mean, it was pretty astonishing. He said, about herd immunity. He said everything except herd immunity. He said, we have to open up the schools. We got to learn to live with this. We got to, and young people don't get sick, and et cetera, echoing Scott Atlas. In other words, old people, overweight people, people with diabetes, people with heart disease. I mean, Trump might as well have just, laughed at everybody. 200,000 dead people. And Biden pointed out, they're saying it's going to be another 200,000 dead people by the end of the year. And Trump is like, who cares? His tax returns, he wants to share them with us, don't you know? But he's under audit, so he can't, which is just a naked lie. He was talking about China, and this is the guy who took $15 million out of somebody. I was surprised Biden didn't bring this up last night. I've only seen it in two places, the Financial Times and I believe the New York Times. But I'm pretty sure those are fairly solid sources, that not only does Trump have a secret checking account in China, but right after he got elected president, or right after he was sworn in early 2017, somebody in China put like $18 million in this checking account, and Donald Trump transferred 14 or 15 million of it to his own pocket here in the United States. Like around the same time that Ivanka was getting trademarks from China, and Trump was praising Xi and having lunch with him, and at Mar-a-Lago and all this kind of stuff. It's just North Korea, Trump was like, we've got him in a box, not to worry. Right. They've been developing an intercontinental ballistic missile. They rolled it out a couple weeks ago. Again, Biden didn't go after him on this, and which kind of pleased me, actually, because it would have been the traditional American saber rattling, we're the empire, we've got to save the world kind of stuff. And I think increasingly Americans are over that. In fact, the two things that caused a lot of people to actually vote for Trump 4 years ago was, number one, he said we're going to bring jobs home from China. He hasn't done that. We've actually lost more factories during the last 4 years than we have gained. And our trade deficit with China has gone up rather than down, because he's just a bumbling, incompetent idiot when it comes to negotiating things, which is why so many of his businesses have failed. I mean, who on God's earth can lose money running a casino? So China's just eating his lunch. North Korea's eating his lunch. On healthcare, he kept referring to the public option. This is as far as Joe Biden is willing to go right now. We should have had a public option in Obamacare, and we will have it when I become president. And we would have had it if it wasn't for Joe Lieberman taking over $1 million from the insurance industry and then giving it the thumbs down. It's just a classic example. In fact, Lieberman had been basically, at that point, kicked out of the Democratic Party. He was an independent senator at the time. And he was like, hey, the insurance company gave me $1 million. Screw the public option. So Biden says, everybody should be able to buy into Medicare. Hey, if you're under 65 and you're listening to me, Medicare is great. And Trump says, that's socialized medicine. This is the guy who, when he got sick with the coronavirus, went to the most socialized medicine facility in the United States, right? With socialized medicine is where the government owns the hospital and employs the doctors, right? I mean, it's just simple definition. You want socialized medicine, it's the National Health Service in the United Kingdom, more or less. I mean, there are British citizens who would argue that it's not quite nationalized or not quite socialist medicine, but, close. But for purposes in America of conversation, that's your socialized medicine. And people in Great Britain love it. I mean, everybody has complaints about, their system, but by and large, it's very, very popular. But that's not what Joe Biden is advocating, although that is what Walter Reed is. Walter Reed is a government-owned facility, a government-run facility. Every single person who attended to Donald Trump while he was there was an employee of the government. That literally is socialized medicine. And last night, Donald Trump tried to tell us, after having been cured of a deadly disease, particularly a disease that's deadly for obese 74-year-olds who wear inch-and-a-half tall lifts in their shoes. There's this thread going around. Why is Donald Trump always leaning forward? Because he's got lifts in his shoes. People think it's a neurological disorder. Maybe it is, but I think it's just really simple. He wears a girdle and Depends. He wears a girdle to hold his gut in, and he wears Depends. I mean, several people who worked on the Apprentice shows, told us all about this. He's incontinent. I don't know what happened, but and that's got to be uncomfortable. So he's leaning forward. But anyhow, he's saying that a public option is socialized medicine. Right? Really? The kids in immigration was pathetic. And at the very end, after they went back and forth, and Joe Biden pointed out that there's over 500 children who, they can't find their parents. This is the story that NBC broke a couple of days ago, actually. And at the very end, she was like, well, they still can't find these kids still can't be reunited with their parents. And Trump says, good. And I'm sitting there going, did Trump just say good? And Louise is like, he's not that evil. I mean, he's crazy and he's evil, but to say good that the children can't be with their parents? No. He must have said something like, go on, or, move to the next topic or something like that. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I heard him say good. And then I looked at Twitter and it's like, people are like, did I just hear him say good? Yeah, apparently we did. He keeps going after Biden for a piece of legislation in 1994 that had almost unanimous support in the House and Senate that, was a terrible mistake, but of the times and at the time and all this kind of stuff, seemed like a good idea, I suppose, to our legislators. I was not a fan of it, but whatever. And Biden twice said, that bill was a mistake, without pointing out that Trump is, still calling for harsher penalties and death penalties and all these kinds of things. And then he goes on to say he's the least racist person in the room. He's saying this to a woman, Kristen Welker, who's interviewing him, who's one parent is African American and the other is Native American. And Trump is saying, oh, I'm the least racist. Really? He doesn't. Well, he does understand what racism is. He just won't own up to it. And fracking and fossil fuels. I was really encouraged to hear, for the first time from any serious presidential candidate, that we have to get off oil, and we have to get off oil quickly because the pollution it's doing is destroying our planet. I thought that was a really, really kind of a high point, a great moment.